So today we are going to do the textual question answer of the chapter Reshaping India's Political Map. So let us start. And the first question is, compare the political strategies of the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughals. What similarities and differences existed between them? So first of all, we will see the similarities and then the differences. So both maintain a centralized system of governance with the ruler at the top as the supreme authority. Both dynasties relied heavily on a strong military to expand and maintain their rule. Both used Islamic titles, coinage, and law to legitimate their rule, even though the population was mostly non-Muslim. Both developed systems to extract revenue from land, the primary source of wealth. Okay, so this is the similarities between the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughals. Now let us see the differences. So first of all, we will see differences in the nature of rule. So Delhi Sultanate was more exclusive Muslim rule, less integration of local Hindu elites, whereas Mughal more inclusive, incorporated Hindu Rajputs and other local rulers. Religious policy. Delhi Sultanate generally intolerant towards non-Muslim, whereas Mughal, especially under Akbar, practiced religious tolerance, that is Sulekul, abolished jizya, right? So compared to Delhi Sultanate, Mughals were tolerant, especially under Akbar. He followed religious policy, right? Next, cultural policy. Delhi Sultanate focused mainly on Islamic architecture and institution, whereas Mughal promoted a syncretic, that is a synchronization of Indo-Persian culture with patronage of arts and architecture. Okay, so this is the difference between the Mughal and the Delhi Sultanate. Now, next. Why did kingdoms like the Vijayanagar Empire and the Ahom kingdom manage to resist conquest for a longer time compared to others? What geographical, military and social factor contributed to their success? So, military factors, Vijayanagar Empire. They maintained strong standing army with cavalry, infantry and war elephants. They frequently reformed military to counter evolving threats, especially from the Bahmania Sultanate and Deccan Sultanate. Ahom kingdom, they maintained a well-trained local militia drawn from the peasantry. They were excellent in using guerrilla tactics and naval warfare on rivers. Social factors. Vijayanagar Empire, they have strong centralized administration and economic prosperity due to trade. They patronize temples and local institutions which reinforce loyalty among the population. Ahom kingdom, they have assimilation of local tribes, example Bodos, strengthening internal stability. They emphasize on local custom and tradition, building unity and identity against outsider. Geographical factors. Vijayanagar Empire had natural defense like rugged terrain, hills, rivers and forests made invasion difficult. Ahom kingdom, located in remote northeast India, made it hard to access for invading armies. Moreover, flood-prone terrain was unfamiliar and difficult for large Mughal armies to navigate. Next question. Imagine you are a scholar in the court of Akbar or Krishna Dev Raya. Write a letter to a friend describing the politics, trade, culture and society you are witnessing. So we will imagine we are a scholar in the court of Akbar. Okay. So dear friend, I hope you are doing well. I am writing to you from Akbar court. Life under Emperor Akbar is fascinating. Akbar's politics are truly different. He includes Hindus, Muslims and even Rajput in his court and ended many unfair taxes like jizya. His idea of Sule-Kul is creating harmony across the empire. The markets are full of traders from Persia, Arabia. You will find everything from spices and silk to jewels and horses. Culturally, the empire is alive, beautiful, paintings, music, architecture, and open discussion on religion and philosophy. Society feels more open and united. I wish you were here to see it all. We'll write more soon. Your friend. Okay. So this is a letter from the Akbar court. Okay. Next. How come Akbar, a ruthless conqueror in his young days, grew tolerant and benevolent after some years? What could have led to such a change? So, Akbar started as a ruthless young conqueror, influenced by military advisors like Bairam Khan. He used force and brutality to expand his empire, as seen in events like the Chittorgarh massacre. However, as he gained experience, he realized that ruling a diverse country like India needed more than power. He adopted policies of religious tolerance, abolished jizya, welcomed Rajputs and Hindu into his court, and promoted Sulh Kul. His growing interest in philosophy, debate, and different faiths transformed him into a tolerant and benevolent ruler. Okay. Next, what might have happened if the Vijayanagar Empire had won the Battle of Talikota? Imagine and describe how it could have changed the political and cultural history of South India. So, if Vijayanagar had won the Battle of Talikota, Vijayanagar would remain dominant in South India for much longer. It continued patronage of Hindu temples, art, literature, and classical tradition. Dravidian architecture and culture would flourish even more. Hampi could have become a major political and cultural capital for centuries. Vijayanagar's wealth could boost international trade with Arabs, Portuguese, and Southeast Asia. Next, many values promoted by early Sikhism, including equality, seva, and justice, remain relevant today. Select one of these values and discuss how it remains relevant in contemporary society. So, equality combats discrimination and promotes human rights worldwide. Seva encourages volunteerism and community service in modern society. Justice inspires activism against social injustice and oppression. So, these Sikh values continue to inspire people globally to build fairer, kinder, and more inclusive communities. And the last question is, imagine you are a trader in a port city, Surat, Calicut, or Hooghly. Describe the scene you see regards goods, people you trade with, movement of ship, etc. So, we are here at the Hooghly port. I am at Hooghly port. The scene is bustling. Workers load and unload cargo. Traders negotiate deals, and ships of all sizes come and go. Cranes swing overhead, trucks rumble by, and the air is filled with the sound of engines, shouting, and river birds. It's a lively hub of trade, movement, and human activity. Okay, so these were the 7 textual question answer. Now, in the textbook, let's explore some questions has been given. Let us do that one also. So, the first one is, Alauddin Khilji called himself second Alexander. Why? So, Alauddin Khilji was a successful and ambitious conqueror. He expanded the Delhi Sultanate significantly, especially into the Deccan and South India. By comparing himself to Alexander, he aimed to legitimate and glorify his rule, showing that he was not just a king but a great conqueror. Alexander was admired in medieval Islamic and Indian tradition as the ideal ruler. Taking his name elevated Alauddin's status. It was a part of his strategies to build a strong, awe-inspiring royal image. Okay, that's why Alauddin Khilji called himself the second Alexander. Next, what kind of resources do you think were needed to maintain an army and wage war in those days? To maintain an army and wage war in those days, rulers needed money was needed to pay soldiers and finance military campaigns. Weapons and armors were required to equip soldiers for battle. Metals and other materials were needed to manufacture weapon, armor, and tools. Horses and elephants were important for cavalry unit and to add strength in warfare. Food and grain were essential to feed the army during wars and long marches. Carts, animals, and boats for movement of troops, weapons, and supplies efficiently was also there. Fort and military camps were needed to protect the army and plan strategies, right? Next, why do you think such locations were chosen for many of the medieval forts? Discuss pros and cons. So, pros. Hills and rocky terrain made it hard for enemies to attack. Narrow paths and steep climbs slowed down invaders. Natural barriers reduced the need for heavy fortification. High ground reduced the risk of flood. Elevated position allow for early detection of enemy movement. Cons. So, building on hills or rocky areas was labor intensive and costly. High altitude location often face water scarcity during sieges. Moving supplies, weapons or troops up steep path was slow and hard. Remote location made communication and support slower in emergencies, and food production around the fort was difficult due to rough terrain. In figure 2.14, what elements do you observe? What do they tell you about life then? So this panel acts like a stone story showing the rich and active life of the Vijayanagar Empire. The Vithala temple, Hampi, Karnataka reveals about life in those days. The carving shows swords, bows, spears and shields indicating the types of weapons used in warfare and royal protections. Elephants and horses are commonly shown used in war, procession and temple rituals. Panel shows scene of dance highlighting the cultural richness of the time, and sculpture shows soldiers, dancer revealing a society with many professions. Next, how the Paik system affected the daily life of the people in the Ahom kingdom, both in terms of challenges and benefits, and helped the king manage both the army and the economy. So challenges were service was compulsory, limiting personal freedom. Many had to work far from home for long periods. Tasks like building roads, forts or serving in the army were tough. Now benefits. People got land to cultivate in return for service. Work was shared in groups, easing the burden. It provided regular work and a role in society. Now how it helped the king? Pikes served as soldiers when needed. Free labor helped in building infrastructure and farming, that is growing the economic strength. And the system ensured control over manpower and resources. Last question is, how did the Ahom use the rivers, hills and forests of Assam to their advantage? So the Ahoms cleverly used Assam natural geography to strengthen their kingdom. To strengthen their kingdom. Economy and defense. The Ahom used rivers for transport, trade and defense, hills for building forts and spotting enemies, and forests for resource and guerrilla warfare. Okay. So these were the questions from the Let's Explore from the chapter. So this is from the textbook question answers and the Let's Explore question answers. So I hope this is going to help you while going through the chapter. So thank you for watching until the end. This much for this video.